RFK Jr., evil anti-vaxxer or just a true enemy of the state? Alright, so y'all know I had to do one on Mr. RFK Jr. His family has stood for true democracy for quite some time now, but according to heavy left-leaning mainstream news, media, etc., like CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, etc., he's been a big anti-vaxxer, even though he himself has stated that, he's not completely against the use of vaccines, and he realizes some of them do have uses. He just questions the efficacy of some of them and like the ingredients in them. So how could he be a good guy? He questions the big pharmaceutical giants and the government, so obviously he just has to be a bad guy, right? The mainstream media makes it out to be that way, and they're always right? So today I want to talk with you guys about RFK Jr. and kind of what he's really about, and watch a interview that happened over on Russell Brand's YouTube/Rumble channel. I watched it on Rumble the first time through the whole thing. Great fucking interview overall, and you really get a sense of what he's about, and it's really nice since, Russell Brand sponsors a censorship-free sort of interview and just, asks a variety of questions to really gauge what he's about, not just ask questions to push him into a certain category so that way people are more likely to believe an agenda. Now, is RFK Jr. really such a evil anti-vaxxer, or is he just a freedom fighter that the government/mainstream media doesn't like and wants to, slander/discredit so they can keep their power? But before we get more into this though, cue intro. On mainstream sites or in mainstream news, you'll see them depicting RFK Jr. as some sort of bad, far right-wing man who's a conspiracy nut or a evil anti-vaxxer, kind of like these. YouTube said on Monday that it removed a video of presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being interviewed by podcast host Jordan Peterson for violating its policy prohibiting vaccine misinformation. A YouTube spokesperson told CNN that the platform removed the video from Peterson's channel because it does not allow, in quotes, content that alleges that vaccines cause chronic side effects outside of rare side effects that are recognized by health authorities. The platform's latest move comes as Kennedy, an environmental lawyer and anti-vaccine activist, has gained more mainstream attention with his views and recently had his account reinstated on Instagram as a result of his long-shot presidential campaign. Like these, or this New York Times article, which is pretty much, written with nothing other than intent to slander RFK Jr. Let's just go ahead and say the quiet part out loud. Robert Kennedy Jr., the nephew of John F. Kennedy, the son of Robert F. Kennedy, is a bit of a crank. This is not breaking news. The 69-year-old scion of America's most famous political family has been peddling anti-vaccine hysteria since long before COVID-19 made it trendy, along with a spicy stew of other conspiracy theories. Notable offerings that the 2004 presidential election was stolen by Republicans, psychopharmaceuticals are responsible for mass shootings, and the CIA had a hand in the assassination of his uncle. Oh wait, you mean the assassination where the CIA/government pushed single or magic bullet theory, which doesn't make any logical sense really, and also, basic physics proves that the CIA and the government lied about it, right? That event that had a bunch of documents that were supposed to be released were delayed again for another 50 plus years. That one, right? RFK Jr. is not a crank for believing that stuff was actually true, just like his father did, who happened to be a senator that also ran for president, just like his brother, that happened to share the same goals / aspirations for the most part, just like, you know, his brother right before he was assassinated while running or campaigning to be president. Now, we actually did a video discussing the JFK assassination files and the delay on them for another 50 plus years. How ridiculous that is and disrespectful. Not to mention, you know, the basic physics of the whole assassination, you know, teaching you guys how, like, inertia works and all of that with guns and weapons, or just in general. But if you guys want to, you know, watch that, got a link for it up here. Quality stuff there for sure. All right, so how many of you guys actually know about the funding of mainstream media, especially, you know, very polarized, heavy left leaning mainstream media like CNN, PBS, NBC, MSNBC? Stands for Microsoft NBC because that's who founded it and heavily funds it, by the way. Microsoft does, etc. You know what the mainstream media is going to start demonizing people for next? Not liking the shit out of this video or smashing the shit out of that subscribe button. They really are going to start fucking just, you know, making you a huge villain if you guys don't start doing that. All joking aside though, my dudes, really does mean a lot to me, and it helps us to get further up in the YouTube algorithm to get this information completely raw and uncensored out to even more people, so that way they, you know, can understand this kind of thing independently, and they have more of a firmer grasp as to what's actually going on out there, and not listening to a whole bunch of biased bullshit which fills their brains with lies, essentially. But with that being said though, let's go ahead and get right back on into the video. Well, those networks that happen to, you know, try to slander RFK Jr.'s name as a horrible anti-vaxxer for simply questioning the efficacy of vaccines, especially the COVID-19 ones, and some of the ingredients in modern day vaccines like mercury, etc., despite saying that, you know, he's not against them, happen to be funded by a peculiar person. Who is it, you might ask? Well, it's by a man whom happened to, you know, have founded two companies or owned them, which heavily censor any sort of, you know, opinions that happen to differ from theirs, the corrupt officials, etc., on vaccines, especially COVID-19's and / or COVID-19's origins. Those ones especially. And like to label it as loony conspiracy theories or misinfo, despite all the evidence which proves that the mainstream / government narrative on all that stuff is fairly wrong, supposedly. This person happens to go by the name none other than Bill Gates Senpai. Do you think maybe that's why a lot of these, you know, networks seem to demonize / vilify anyone that happens to share any sort of different views or beliefs on these things, especially when they happen to, you know, differ from those views that their sponsors or the people that heavily fund them happen to have? The majority of them are biased towards their funders / sponsors because they happen to give them so much money or funding through, you know, means of physical donations, journalism grants, internships, etc. So many of them tend to, in turn, vilify anyone who might happen to, you know, have a different view or express a fact or opinion, etc., which might happen to make their sugar daddies look bad in any sort of light, no matter how true the statement or statements might be. Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccines were recently taken off the shelf, but you won't hear that on mainstream news or anything like that currently. Don't listen to those crazy anti-vaxxers. Their conspiracy theories are gonna rot your brain. Pfizer would never do something like that at all. It's not any bit true that their COVID-19 vaccines caused health problems, and that's why they had to take them off the shelf. Pfizer's just such an angel. They would never do anything terrible like that, intentionally, and then lie to the public about it. It's not like they ever caused the opioid epidemic or anything like that. No, they're just such sweet angels.
Good Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch, sponsored by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight, brought to you by Pfizer. Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Now, how about we have a look at what RFK Jr. actually has to say for himself, instead of, listening to all the freaking biased mainstream media news's opinions of him.
I love what you talk about on this podcast all the time, which is the healing power of love, of uniting people from the left and the right in a populist rebellion against these, this superstructure. And I don't know if it will work, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to go forward as if I believed that it was going to work. And I'm seeing, the tremendous power coming from, people now, more and more people on the left are joining my campaign. I had calls this week from Jeffrey Sachs, from Ralph Nader, from many other kind of liberal leaders who are, part of the superstructure of the, liberal democracy forever. And of course, on the right, the groups that were vilifying each other and continue to vilify each other. The prophet of that, of that cabal that you're talking about, the uniparty cabal, the worst thing that they can imagine is that we can unify far left and far right in a revolution against this corrupt merger of state and corporate power. And that is, my plan. That's what I'm going to try to do. And so far things are going well. I can have a more surgical impact on these agencies because I've spent 40 years suing them. I've spent 40 years studying them. I have a PhD. I am thinking about how do you fix these corrupt corporate cultures and at the same time honor the people who are in those agencies to do something good. We talked about, I know you and I have never met, but we have my granddaughter was friends with your daughter at school, and her mother, my daughter-in-law, Amaryllis Fox, who's married to my oldest son, was a CIA agent for most in the clandestine services for most of her career, and she's one of the most honorable and most courageous people that I've ever met. And she says that the 22,000 people who work for the CIA, most of them are good, patriotic American citizens who gravitated to that agency because they're idealistic. And so, but, it's like all of these agencies, the people who rise up in the agencies and get these permanent, beachheads of power, like Anthony Fauci, who's there for 50 years. And he lasts for 50 years for the same reason he rose, which is he's in the tank with industry. He's part of the, this dynamic of agency capture, where these agencies are become the sock puppets for the industries they're supposed to regulate. And NIH and CDC and FDA are captured by big pharma. EPA is captured by the chemical industry, the pesticide. And when I sued Monsanto, my team, we went through discovery documents, uncovered them, that we found these emails, extraordinary emails, where it showed that the head of the pesticide division for almost a decade, Jess Rowland, was secretly working for Monsanto the entire time. And this is true throughout these agencies. I've sued USDA and Smithfield and Cargill and Monsanto and the industrial agriculture and meat processing facilities, which own that agency. And if you look at the CIA, it's a captured agency too, but it's captured by the military industrial complex. And I know what I would do with the CIA, which is the same thing my father would do, which is not to burn it to the ground, but to separate the espionage division, which is what it's supposed to be doing. Espionage is information gathering and analysis, and we need that function at CIA, and we need those people to be happy with their agency and proud of their agency and performing better than anybody else in the world. But the attachment of that agency to the clandestine division is corrupting to the entire process, because the problem with all the clandestine operations, there's no accountability. Nobody, and if the espionage division is part of that, they end up justifying all of these black ops rather than saying, okay, let's take a look at the long-term blowback, not just the short-term, objective. For example, the CIA believes if they look at the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, they say that's a success story because they got rid of him. But then we spend $8 trillion. We kill more Iraqis than Saddam Hussein. We turn Iraq into a proxy for Iran. It's an incoherent nation that's just a series of warring death squads between Shia and Sunni. And we create ISIS, and we drive 2 million refugees into Europe and destabilize democracy in every country in Europe, and probably, have something to do with Brexit.
Now, doesn't that sound like what most of us, me and you guys, want in a person that's going to run our country? Someone who's going to, lead with love, compassion, bring our troops home, and fix our infrastructure for the better, actually. These are all things that need to be done and that we American citizens have been asking for decades, right? Now, think about how much better it would be to actually have someone all about that stuff who's, not a part of the career politician club of the corporate world. It'd be fucking fantastic, wouldn't it?
Something to do with Brexit. And so if you look at all of the blowback and then say, was it a good idea to overthrow Saddam Hussein? The answer would be no, it wasn't. The same is true with the CIA's overthrow of Jacob Arbenz in Guatemala. And, we're still paying the price in 1953 with all the Guatemalans lined up at our border trying to get in, because that country has never regained its stability through all of these military interventions and CIA machination.
Now, RFK Jr. doesn't really seem like such a bad guy, does he? He actually seems like someone who's pretty decent. Now, while all the mainstream media is just blaring the same message over and over and over again on repeat to, try to brainwash people or make people think all the same instead of encouraging them to think independently, actually. That's what's going on. It's kind of ironic and kind of fucked up, isn't it? The fact of the matter that someone who is very compassionate, kind, and, very logical and intellectual is being, villainized / demonized. He's also an environmental lawyer too. It's crazy. I don't know. It's just really funny. I will give mainstream news media or heavy left-leaning mainstream news like CNN, MSNBC, etc. credit for, at least saying that he's an environmental lawyer and not really slandering that. But then again, it also kind of goes with their agenda and what their sponsor's agenda is as well too for the environmental aspect. So, we're not going to slander him for that because it works with what we want, and our agenda. Now, RFK has been on a number of different, podcasts, whether it's Tucker Carlson's Twitter series or Jordan Peterson's YouTube channel, or just not even YouTube channel, the Daily Wire show that he has, or Russell Brand, Redacted News, etc. On Redacted News and, Jordan Peterson's interview, he said both times, I'm fairly certain he at least said it on one or the other, that he wasn't entirely against vaccines neither. He just questioned the efficacy of the ingredients of them, especially in modern times and especially with, COVID-19 vaccines, which is completely fine and dandy to do, but mainstream media just demonizes him and, puts it off that he's this big anti-vaxer or anti-vaxer activist, which is, I don't know, it's kind of messed up to call somebody that. I don't know, it's just one of those things, goofy shit. It's another way to make him kind of seem a little bit softer. It's softer like terminology to use, and either way they're painting him as this evil anti-vaxxer, you know, and that he's a crazy conspiracy nut or a crank, etc., when he has plenty of logic to believe all that he does, you know. And like, that's with years of talking with medical professionals, etc. The man's well educated. He well educates himself before coming to an conclusion on things. That's enough about what I think. What do you guys think, my adoring tribe members, new viewers, fans, etc.? Let us know in the comments section down below. We'd love to hear what you guys have to think on this stuff, and whether or not, you know, RFK Jr. is a evil anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorist, or if you know, are like me and think that he is a just down-to-earth dude and a enemy of the state, you know, because he's an independent thinker who threatens their power. And, you know, if you guys did make it to this point in the video, go and leave the word fighter in the comments section down below to let me know that you made it to the end and you guys are part of the 100% club. Also, if you guys did enjoy the video, please, you know, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really does help us out a lot whenever you guys do this. It also, you know, mainly gets us further up into that YouTube algorithm, helping to get this information out to even more people. And, you know, it also helps to let me know what you guys are enjoying that I'm putting out here for you. But we always want to, you know, make sure we can get content that's just completely raw and uncensored, not to mention unbiased in general, out to the public, and to help more people, you know, understand it's okay to think independently and to understand what's really going on out there. But if you guys want a more interactive experience with us, come join us live every Wednesday and Friday from 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Central Time for our streams, where we play games like Pokemon Unite, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and a variety of other games, you know, not to mention talk about conspiracies like this stuff that we do here on this channel, survival stuff as well too, share dark humored memes, and just vibe out and have a good time. You know, we do all that stuff on Twitch, the main YouTube, Facebook, generally, you know, a grand old time, and we always love to have new people in there. The more the merrier. Also, feel free to join us for movie/weeb night every other Friday in our Z Tribe Discord. It happens right after stream at 10:45, 10:50ish p.m. Watch things like anime, cartoons, movies, documentary series on things like, you know, how Hitler didn't kill himself, and things with actual like evidence to back them up. We also, you know, happen to share dark humored memes in that Discord, talk about conspiracies like this stuff. Also, you know, have spiritual/philosophical discussions, in addition to, you know, just vibing out and having a sense of community and just chatting it up. But nonetheless, though, we'd love to have more people in there. But until next time, though, my dudes, please don't forget to live long and prosper, take care and peace, keep it 1,000,000% real, and as always, fuck the system. I will see you guys on the flip side.